Okay, you can do another CC playthrough, and this one is Angry Moose Country Club, and it's by Matt Adamczyk. Yeah, sorry, probably pronouncing that awfully. I've looked for... I don't believe there's actually a forum post for it, so I can't really comment on any setup or anything. We're going to play off the back tees. Now, I know Matt's done at least... There's been one other course that I'm certain I've played that was a couple of months old. Even just from the screenshot above, this looks like it's a huge step up. We're going to Boreal, which is great. It's a brilliant theme. Loads of planting variety. Just excited to play this one. Now 7,558 is quite long. I'm assuming these are the contest tees. We've only got 2 sets. We're going to go pin set 2. This will be one of at least 2 plays that I do on each of these courses prior to actually determining a mark. And what I'm going to do is just play through. I will give you everything I've got, so positives and the things that I would see that I might change or improve. We're not going to go searching for errors, but if I see stuff that are missed opportunities or whatever, I'll try to talk you through. But yeah, really looking forward to this one. And it's a great look off the first tee. And the main thing that is striking me is just the width of what we've got. Now there's a few things that I see that I would probably be changing, or it's a really interesting look. Yeah, there's definitely a few things, but firstly, also really love the name. The name is quality. The way you've done the grasses and the planting is just excellent. You've clumped it nicely. I would say the one thing planting wise that is grabbing me is it's quite flat, and what I mean by that is everything's a bit at the same height. So if you look at these bushes, we'd kind of expect some of them to be high and they gradually sink into the ground, but they're all kind of the same height, and I think you'll get a much better look, particularly drawing people's eye in towards the hole. If you can kind of slope your planting down from say up here to down here, then that does have a nice effect of leading your eye that way. The same is true with the fairway. We've got these waste bunkers, which I really like. Waste bunkers are a great way to add interest to fairway shapes and what have you, but everything looks very dead flat, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I'd love to see you play with this side of the fairway being high and this side low, and just, it doesn't need to be much, but let's have some land movement up here as well. And I think that would make your life easier with this bunker and your sightline. You've done a good job with the sightline. Now, I suspect I'm going to come back to this. I like the way you've done the surfaces. I don't think I like the colour choices of the surfaces all that much. I think you've got this lovely muted tone of all of these trees and this slightly gloomy lighting, and then it just gets very neon. I think you could have played with duller colours, and that would have done you a big world of good. Obviously we've got a large cut of light rough. For a CC contest I quite like that. That makes sense. The fairway, I get that we're trying to go... I think this is one where it's... The way you've got the waste bunkers and then the big light rough makes it all look a little bit more winding than maybe it is. So let's say all of this was fairway, which I think you could have gotten away with. I think you could have almost gotten away with a tiny cut of light rough, or even no light rough in this, if you made the fairway wide enough and made the fairway almost all the way out to here. You'd have a cleaner look. As it is, not cleaner, cleaner is the wrong word, a look that flows a bit more nicely. As is, this massive band of light rough is kind of throwing my eye a little bit. I want to see the... yeah, I don't know. What else we got? I mean, I love the planting. The planting is so good. And I really appreciate that you haven't felt the need to chuck in every bright global plant under the sun, because you didn't need that. Now, this bunker, we've got some issues here. Firstly, if you're doing this, you're never going to get a good look just plopping it in there without tracing around in fairway. and then encasing. I think if you'd encased the bunker with light rough and traced a spline around here, that would have been much better. I can't say I really understand why we've not gone for fairway all the way around to here and done a tiny little line of light rough. There's no reason we would need that with the land as it is. And the green is, again, just the really neon. And we've then got we've also got mow lines on the green, but we haven't on the fairway. Oh, we do, but they're very wide. I don't know, these don't mesh. I'm nitpicking big time here. Hole itself. So, I don't think the bunker's either. It's not quite sitting right. It's kind of facing as if, like, if I imagine the green was there, this bunker fits perfectly. But it's kind of almost, I'd want it turned around 90 degrees and coming across this way. Because if I'm thinking about where I'm playing my approach shot from, which is going to be here, there's not actually that much of the green that the bunker is protecting. It's only protecting this tiny little portion here. If we turn it round, then it's protecting more. Still, with this one, pin over here, mostly green slopes. I think we can just go down the middle. Let's see how we're doing with tempo. I mean, it is just a really good look off the first tee. Nice forgiving fairway, which again leads me to that question of, do we need that big band of light rough? Second shot looks great as well. I think I might have to turn the graphics down just a tiny bit, or we're going to get horrible tempo. And that's probably just my computer, nothing else. Still look good on high. Yeah, it's a bit smoother. Planting's great. Nothing really to add here. I think these ferns and maybe some of these little plants are just on their own. I'd like to see them surrounded a bit more by grass, but it's not a must. And just kind of take aim at this pin, which is nice. It's a good, gentle first hole. Yeah, and rewarded for playing two pretty solid shots. Maybe a little bit flat here. I get why we've done it, because CC contest, but I would like to see a little bit of break there. Even if just, let's try to avoid dead flat with putts if we can, but I don't mind it. Okay, I think this green is too big. And again, we've got that shape that I get what you're doing, but there's no. This shape works as a green if there's a reason for it to be coming in here. If you've kind of made a big spine here, and I mean, if there is one, it's pretty minuscule. I'd want to be seeing that mounded far more severely in order to justify this, and even then, honestly, I think your green is about a third too big. If you'd taken your green just to there and lopped off this part here, you'd have a miles better hole. It would make more sense. I think you're probably also going to struggle to find just 4 pins on this. I mean, there's a place for big greens, but I don't know, 160-yard shot. It feels like we're adding on an appendage really just to justify a pin position and make it very different. And I'd rather we made things different within the context of the hole you've got and worked subtly that way. Again, planting spectacular, the look is great, I love the way you've done the path. I think I would have liked to have seen you use more than 2 tees, but I'm really not fussed. I love the way that path is winding and my eye is just looking in the background the whole time. I do think this green complex itself could have used a normal bunker. If we go back to that one you had at the start on hole 1, if we had a little bunker here and then the greens banked into that, that would be great. Not quite. We were close. Yeah, this one's a much better slope for a pin position, and actually, no problem. I mean, you gave hole 1 we had pretty flat, gentle opening. Hole 2 a little bit trickier. Okay, this one, couple of other things that are leaping out that we'll come back through in a minute. I think the main one is that fairway bunker placement on the right hand side. This green's a better shape. I still think your main... I think I've cracked it. The main issue we've got with the green surfaces currently... Where am I going? Where am I? Ah yeah, we're up here. The main issue is that it's all so flat around them, which means why are we cutting the green shape here? I think your flatness is kind of hurting you with the greens a little bit. I'd love to see them raised up 2 feet, partly so water could drain off, that would help. But just generally, I think what this course is really missing is some more elevation changes. That said, we're getting more of the planting and everything else leading our eyes from left to right. So I like that a lot, when in fact the hole's going right to left. That's cool. I can't say this bunker is so close to the edge of the fairway, and if I hit out here anyway, I'm blocked out by trees. I think the look through some of these trees at the pin is gorgeous. Honestly, this bunker or these trees, don't do both. In this case, I think you probably get away with just the trees. And actually from here the bunker looks way more central than it actually is. I'll be honest, I don't tend to love holes where I'm basically winding my way through trees and trying to work out if I'm going to get stuck behind them or not, and it just feels a little too much like guesswork. So I wouldn't say I have a problem with it, or it's not. Yes, that's possibly personal preference, but I think it feels a little bit more like luck than judgment as to whether I've hit it the right distance to avoid the trees or not. Let's see what this has done. And then we're just hitting this banana fade and kind of hoping. That said, it's par 5, so I don't mind you adding, and I get that, yeah, I think I'm okay with it. I suspect these are thoughts that you probably had as well. Yep, nice little bit of gentle part. I mean, the planting is stunning. The whole atmosphere is great. I would love all of this just to have a bit more undulation, a bit more land movement is all this is really craving. Okay, hole 4. 515 yards. Okay, we've got a long one. I think your planting's getting a little bit close here. I feel like these are oversights, and I don't think we want these interfering in playable surfaces. This is a much more. This is a green shape that makes much more sense to me. I suppose downwind we can probably clear that. I don't have a huge amount to say, I don't think, that I haven't already said in the first few holes. It does kind of the lack of elevation change, and we've got some, but the lack of undulations or ups and downs does mean that it kind of just looks like we're on, almost with this shot, kind of on a driving range. That sounds really harsh, but you know what I mean in terms of the feel. Like we are just hitting a dead straight shot. There's nothing really to react to. It's just kind of target golf. It's framed really well. That said, I would have liked to have seen you go with, again, it's just a few more slopes in the greens. That said, I've managed to find the one slope there is there. I mean, same thing with that bunker. Let's go and have a look at this bunker, actually. Zoom out. So, I did wonder about this. Yeah, bunker sculpting is an issue, in that you can see we don't really have a high side and a low side. So, this side needs to be up about 3 or 4 feet, this side needs to be down probably 2 feet. If you go with kind of 5-6 feet, maybe top to bottom is a good standard. But all of this is due to the fact that everything is so flat, which means you can't really sit bunkers down without them going in on themselves. You've actually sculpted it pretty well, but the issue is that we don't have a clearly defined high and low side, which makes it sit really weirdly. But it's nice. I mean, it's, again, in case the whole thing in light rough have a fairway spline going around all of it, one kind of smoother spline, and then fill the middle of that in with the light rough. 55 feet. Now, this was quite a long hole. I didn't think it was. I like that you gave me space off the tee, and I didn't need on a 550 15-yard par 4 or whatever. It's not too punitive. I think the greens have been. I would have liked the greens to have had a bit more interest in terms of the sloping, if I'm honest. They've been benign, which is good on CC, but I think you can ramp it up a little bit more and gain so much more in the way of interest. Again, we've got another funky shape that I don't think is warranted, and there's a few too many ins and outs that don't really make sense. Why are we not cutting this bit here? I don't know. I think there's got to be a reason for you kind of bringing it in and bringing it in and bringing it in. We said that before. I feel like this course, I'm just going to say the same things over and over again. I'm bowled over by the environment. It's great. I love these textures in Boreal. It's not a great shot. Oh, we found a bunker. Yeah, and you can see with exactly what's happening with the sculpting, that we're flowing in this way and in this way. So it's all, the low point is in the middle of both, whereas you'd want your low point to be more at the bottom of the bunker. And that's real life as well as here. Oh, it's not a good putt. Yeah, and again, a few bits of planting I can see in the background are catching as just crossing into playable surfaces. There is really not much I haven't already said. Ooh, 673 yards. Again, the central bunkers aren't really central. I'm not going to bother taking on that because the angle, it almost just forces me to hit down the middle because it's so close to one side. This bunker's gone down again because it's the same things. But again, digging the environment big time. Yeah, I mean this one, are we defending against a pulled drive? And this one a pushed one? If so, there's better ways of doing that. This is an interesting one as well, because if I'm hitting pro clubs, then I'm hitting to this tiny neck of the fairway. I'm all for giving master clubs an advantage, I really am. But why not have it where master clubs can clear this hazard, pros can't, but there's still a wider fairway here, or vice versa. I think you can do it without choking it quite so much. That was a dreadful swing. But I mean, you kind of see what I mean there, in that there's no point in taking on either side of the fairway, and it's a 3-shotter anyway, which kind of makes that... Given that it's a 3-shotter anyway, with a 3-shot par 5 it's all about making the second shot interesting. This one is just hit it as far as you can. I would love you to be challenging me with a cross bunker here, and I have to think if I want to go here, and then the green's angled that way, so I'm trying to carry as much of it as I can to get the angle in, rather than if I bail out left I'm screwed, or there's a slope going off that way which means I have to be on this side, or whatever. I'm going with that because you've got your bunker here. As is, it's basically how much fairway do I want to eat up, which I kind of feel I've had the same shot twice on this hole now, in that I'm just hitting up quite a long way. I think you could be challenging me in terms of where I play to a bit more. Now you can see this bunker's issues, you can really see in terms of how it's falling in on itself by the fact that you can't even see it from here. Now if we'd got a high side and a low side, which it desperately needs, you can see how it's just falling in. If we had this side raised up 4 feet and then the green going down that way and then this bit down 4, and then you've got a run off front, I think play with slopes more, you will get so much more joy in terms of what you can do. Now, I think I got the swing I wanted. Tend to play for the fast. Should be able to get a birdie. Again, yeah, we're dead flat. I would really love... I kind of feel if I'm hitting close, I'm making a birdie. Hopefully it will change. I like this planting's great. We've got a little bit of height variety here. Same thing with this bunker. It's too close to the side. This one's a bit better. Green's gone massive again. With your greens, I would suggest, and this is a comment I got in last year's CC contest, which has done me the world of good. Oh, first of all, framing on this hole is out of this world. The way the way you've layered everything, and we've got depth here, here, then here, then here, then here, then the flag. I'm seeing so much, and it makes this hole look way longer than it actually is, because of all those tricks with depth perception. This actually looks much longer than the 640 odd yard hole we just played. Back to what I was saying, the green sizes. The bit of feedback I got was to develop a bit of a framework of what a large green was, what a small green was, etc. For me, it's ended up being 90. As I spline it out, 95 yards for me is standard. 105 yards is large, and 85 is say small. And that's my standard. If I want to do a different type of course with huge greens, well, maybe we'll adjust that to, I don't know, 10 feet more. Can't say I really understand again why these fairways split, especially as you've got the light rough going through it. I get why it's there as a path, but I'd rather see the fairway just join. I don't think we're really gaining anything by splitting it in that fashion, especially when, if we were to bounce in the light or heavy rough, will just bounce on through. It's not really split. It's only split by where you've chosen to mow it. So yeah, this green is... I get that it's adding difference in terms of where you pin it, but because it's so big, it also takes your hazard well out of play. This bunker is just never in play on any of the shots, I don't think. As ever, the course looks fantastic. You can't really fault it. .33. Let's see if that's it. But this sort of putt I really like. The fact that we've got a gentle breaker. It's not nothing silly, I'm not aiming miles up a hill. I think around the holes it gets a little too benign. Okay, 200-yard par 3. Again, I can already tell you the green is too big. The major issue you're having with these greens is because, everything is so flat, it's really hard to add interest, so you're just hitting to a giant green that once you've hit it, it's just a very long, relatively flat part. Whereas if we'd given some options of backstops or false fronts, we've got a tiny one there. But I think if you compare the size of your false front here to the scale of the green, well, it's not really in play. I think, yeah, my main comment here really would be one of scaling and undulation. Which is a shame. I'm absolutely loving a huge amount of the ideas here. I can see how you've set up holes in terms of strategy. I'd look at hazard placement. See, this is a split fairway I can get behind. Because this one makes sense. And we're back to the really open vibe. I like the clubhouse. Hazard here by the green makes much more sense. Green shape makes much more sense. Green size is perfect. Maybe a tiny bit small, but like way better than we've had before. I'd go as far as to say I think this is the best scaling wise and hazard placement. This is the best hole you've got by some way. I'd have liked to have seen maybe the split fairway come in a little bit more. It's really visual, it's not actually serving a function because yeah, I don't think I'm ever troubled by finishing short. Now whatever I do, I'm going to have to come over this bunker, which I like. I would have liked it even more if you could have generated a way that I take on a really risky drive out here and I get a chance to scoot by it. I think that would have been cool. Or you give me a slope I could access or something. As is. Or even, I think the way I'd have done this, and I'm now saying this because this is a really good hole, so now I'm into editor mode and going, well, how would I make this even better? I'd probably be removing that bunker, having the fairway just curl up this way, which means that the further left you go, the more access you get to that pin. Purely for this pin, I then query, well, what if we had one back there? Or back there, maybe you're not wanting to come in from there, so maybe we move the centre bunker over a little bit. I don't know, but I think if you'd given me more of an option out left to get at that, that would have really helped. We've also gone from massive width to kind of normal, which I'm okay with. Yeah, sculpting around the bunker isn't the best. I think you'll get better at that. As in, with this bunker it isn't the best, but you're trying to do more of what you should have been doing before in terms of bumping up the back and bumping down the front. You'll just get used to this with practice. So, soft flatten or raise brush, down a couple of feet there, smooth out at the top, you will get better. This one by the green is definitely better. It's still sinking in to itself a little bit. You can see it's kind of crumpling. The main reason is just you've over flattened that in the middle. But I'm really pleased that you're using low side, high side more on this one, because that does make it look better and it's visible, and I really feel that, as I've got to clear that hazard and I don't have a lot of room. I'm okay with that. There was a slope that I'd have hoped might have brought it down a little bit more. But yeah, it's a tinier slope. Anyway, that's your best hole so far. I, again, would have loved a bit more excitement in the green. I think the greens are kind of, in terms of out of 10, in terms of how much have you pushed them, are probably at about a 3. I'd like to see ramp it up to 6 or 7. Give me some yellow slopes, red slopes, or if they are green slopes, let's make them consistent. They're kind of just flat. These bunkers in the fairway again are just, for me, too close to the sides. We've got some undulations here. Got some sloping. Kind of, yeah. We'll see what we get. So par 5. Okay, drive is challenged. As far as I can tell, these bunkers are never in play. In which case I don't get, and none of them are in play. Because I'm hitting driver over that one. I'm never reaching these two, and my second, so the 3 bunkers that you put in on this hole are all, I don't really know why they're there. Having said they're out of play, we hit it very fast. But I mean, do you see what I mean? They're not, even hacking out of this, they're not in play. Unless we're hitting a tree, which is possible. Can I hit a 1 iron? Thought I'd try to get under the branch. So this is now just me being stupid, which I'm fine with being punished for. Slow, slow. It gets better. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I would take from this as well is hazard mapping. So try to work out, rather than just putting bunkers where it looks like they might look interesting, where are they actually going to challenge a golfer? Where are they going to make them think about playing or not playing? Which shots they come in to play for? They're coming in for master clubs, pro clubs. If I miss the fairway, which hazards come in then? Those sorts of things. This is a lovely looking hole as well. You've got the visuals absolutely nailed. And okay, we've got a more interesting green, and actually the sloping, even just this, I mean that slope is probably a bit severe. I think it makes the green immensely more interesting because I know if I miss left I'm off. So now I'm thinking, well, I'm probably going to try to work a fade in, which I like, and then I've got this that is kicking me, so I'm definitely going to work a fade in. And straight away we've got our best par 3 that we've had. I will say that this giant red slope does jar a little bit because we haven't seen one before. It's not a great shot. But I think that's a question of consistency. I'm still glad that you've done it. Even though it's jarred, it's made the hole better. Wow, my golf game's awful tonight. Now the one thing you're seeing in the background as well is an unfortunate side effect of the textures you've chosen is that neon look. Particularly now that we've got buried trees as well in there. You start seeing how you've got these dull browns and then this is just bright as. I think if you'd chosen more muted colours, you'd really feel the benefit there. Okay, but I'm enjoying the round so far, for sure. Yeah, we've definitely suddenly started thinking about red slopes on greens, haven't we? The one thing I'll say here is we've now had exactly the same slope, exactly the same angle twice in a row. So whilst I'm really glad you're using it, let's be careful not to get caught up in the same thing. This hazard works. I still think I'd give a bit more space here. Because my only real option is to go left of it, which actually for this pin's my preferred line anyway, so that's fine. I'm never taking this on right, because even if I do and land it there, I'm possibly running out. In actual fact, I'm just going to try to take it over it, because I think I can clear it. I do like what you've done with the slope here. I think I would have liked you to have done more of this earlier in the round, and ideally not the same slope twice in terms of how it's bisected your green, but it is great. And I enjoyed playing that pitch shot in, and I think you've varied your lengths of holes quite well. Oh, got a little bit of lag there. Okay, hole 13. Yeah, same comments about the bunkers, neither of those are in play. 474. Okay. And we've got a back bunker. See, here I have no problem with the shape of the green, because at least you give me a reason. I still don't love it. I think it's a bit forced, and it's... I don't know. I don't know whether the quirky green shapes really fit with this course. So we can't see that second bunker off the tee, which is again a high side, low side thing. I mean, I think I've made all my points that I would make on this course. It's just a couple of the same things happen again and again, but most of it's really solid. The look is great. You've nailed the environment. Texture choices aside, I would say. But it's beautifully planted, and you've clearly taken a huge amount of time on that, so well done. Oh, and let's get a birdie. Turn in, turn in. Nope. I'm very much someone who plays off slopes. My golf tends to be playing into areas, so I kind of struggle with flat greens, interestingly. I really like this green site. This is one of your better green sites for sure, and I like that it's, again, that front bunker's great. I have no problem with the light rough bisecting that. I think that makes sense. Greens for this length of hole, this green is very small, particularly compared to some of your others. Again, as we can't see either of those bunkers off the tee, which is a bit of an issue. So as we'd said before, if you've got a framework for your green sizes, this sort of thing won't happen, because you'll be looking at it going, well, it's a long par 4, 500, I'm hitting a 5-iron into this. Do I want it being a large green or a small green or a middle green? And you'd be going, well, large green, because this shot is tough. And that's fine. But you want to make your... I think you want to have an idea of how you're making a hole difficult. If it's... in this case, it's primarily distance. We've got on CCA, we've got a 5-iron into a green. We're probably going to be finding that a little tougher to control. So therefore, a large green's going to mitigate that difficulty a touch. Oh, I like the houses around here. That's nice. That breaks it up a little bit. I've got comments on this fairway, for sure. What I do like that you've done more in recent holes that you didn't do on the front nine that felt a bit samey was, previously we just had the whole thing was fairway and a green was just plonked in the middle of it, and it kind of felt a bit random. Now what we're doing is we're breaking up the green and fairway a little more. One thing we do tend to see is people going to island fairways as a way of mixing it up and adding variety. I think if you're ever adding multiple islands, you've got to question why. Because there's no reason why this fairway wouldn't join here and make one. I mean, even if you'd had 1, then 2, then 3, I'd be thinking it was a bit much. And you have to work really hard to pull this look off. We've got a bit of texture burning under here. You can see the fairway's gone brown. That's because you've planted a few too many buried trees or something in and around here. There's no real way around that. You've just got to plant. There are some areas where you just can't plant. Or you take the hit and you accept that that's what's going to happen. Again, unfortunately none of the hazards in play. I do like this green side though. So all of those, again we've got a small green. We've suddenly gone really small in the last couple of holes on two of your... Oh wow, that's gone way left. Oh right, that would be wind. But on two of your significantly longer holes, you've gone for tiny greens that are protected pretty well in this case at the front. I think this bunker could come around a bit more, and because it's not, that's only protecting against a slow, whereas actually you want to be, yeah, I think your bunker placement generally could use it. Could use a look at why you're placing it where you're placing it. Not a bad putt. Oh, flop even. I love the dense woodland. I completely believe the environment, which is a real strength. Okay, we've got another really long par 5. I do feel at this point this course is probably a little long for CC, having just produced one that was 7,300 yards, and when being scheduled on tour they were wanting to originally use the front tees more than that. I think 7.6 is a real push. And the fact that we've got two, I'm also trying to think of pro clubs, so me using master clubs. This bunker position I really like. The way you've bumped it up at the back is much better. Yeah, there's some smoothing out to be done here and the rough stuff around it, but this is a much better bunker placement. The sightline off this hole's great. Again, the depth, the way you've worked that, the layering is really good. Oh, actually we're way short, it's fine. Particularly in this wind direction, I've now going to have had 2 3-shot par 5s, and both of them now I'm not having to think on the second shot. Ah, he says. Have we plugged? Huh, that's gotten even worse. Okay, 119, let's just hack it up there somewhere. I'll be interested to know whether other people have gotten lag on this course. I feel like, I mean I haven't restarted my computer in a while, so I'm not attributing it to that. I'm going to, like I say, I'll do 2 rounds on it, so I'll check that one a second time. At this stage I'm very much not blaming those shots on lag, that's just me. Okay, but yeah, I think we've had a couple of, if you're going for a 3-shot par 5, it's got to be packed full of strategy, and you almost, if you're forcing people into plotting their way around the hole, you've got to give them things to think about. The 2 that we've had have kind of been just hit. We've got another green that I would say is probably too big. We've got that middle slope as well, that's huge as a tier. I'd probably be scaling that back a little. I visually love the hole. It's awesome. That needs to sit. Okay. I feel like, have you given me a little bit of a backstop there? Yeah, a little bit of one. I love being able to see through all of these trees, and like, okay, the course has got its wrinkles, and the environment is, I'm going to say, possibly the best I've seen in CC contest. Certainly the ones I've judged to date. Okay, we're on hole 18. It's tricky when the light comes through. Again, I think the tree line's getting a bit too close to the fairway on the right hand side. You can see we've got trees overhanging. Really, this hole for me kind of encapsulates a lot of the things I would say about this course in terms of the things to work on. The bunker placement, these two, and the encasing in the light rough don't really make much sense to me. The green is kind of just... Okay, there is some mounding. Actually, no, this one's better. There's some mounding. I still think the shapes are too windy. You don't really find shapes like this in real life. And whilst not everything should be in real life, it's usually a pretty good barometer. This green, I think you've pushed pretty close actually. If we've got little bits of yellow appearing, I'm slightly worried about that pin, but I'm sure we've checked it. Again, we can't really see the bunkers off the tee. Oh, another long iron in. Yeah, this pin is borderline. It feels like we've just created this little wind purely to tuck. So that little curve feels almost purely there to tuck a pin, which there are better ways of doing difficulty. Especially when you're hitting 5 iron in on a par 4. And we're fighting... Yeah, this pin is really borderline. I just think you've made this hole, or this pin, particularly difficult. And I don't think you needed to use all of these strategies for difficulty. That was a dreadful part, but I was petrified of going off the other side. If we are going to tuck this pin, let's not have it roll off the green, or roll away there, and roll away at the back, and roll away massively this side. Additionally, if we're going to tuck this pin, let's not make us have 194 yards in. And yeah, I get I'm wind interface or what have you. I don't know, I feel like it's just we've chucked every method of difficulty for making this a difficult par 4 18th. And I don't think we needed to. And we finished with a bogey, which is a bit of a shame. I'll have a quick cursory look at Clubhouse. I mean, minimalist, but that's fine. And there we are. Angry Moose Golf Club. Yeah, it's a shame about the 18th that I bogeyed that, but I mean, could it host an event on CC? Absolutely. The winning score wouldn't be that low. We would 100% not play off. The tricky thing is you need a tee set in between these two, because that would be too short for CC and that is way too long. Bear in mind that most major courses this year were under that, or around that distance, and I think gives you an idea of difficulty, and let alone par 71. No wonder this played pretty long. So I'm just going to get the kind of judging criteria up and talk you through the different categories and kind of what I'm thinking about that. So playabilities and shot values. I think the main thing for me is hazard placements and slopes. I would a lot of times, and the same the huge greens. When you have huge flat greens, it takes a lot of the strategy and angles and approach distances and yardages, whatever, because you're just hitting to a large, relatively flat space. It doesn't really matter where you miss. The bunker placement, I hope I've pointed out some bits where I think you could have placed them a bit better and would have enhanced the hole. For me, I tend to try to think of, if I'm looking back from the green, where is position A1? Where do I want to be coming into that green from? And then I'll defend that, usually pretty severely, or it's a challenge, basically. Either it's a bunker that you want to carry, or a bunker you want to flirt with, or it might be a slope and a flat zone that you want to hold. I think there's loads of ways of doing that, but work out where your best position is, and then come from the green, come back to that area off the tee and work out how you're going to challenge it by cutting fairway, hazards, whatever. And then consider, well, where's your layup? Where, if people don't want to play there, where are you going to give them a choice to play? And then how does that negatively but impact their approach into the green, but not completely screw them over? So, i.e., if I'm playing 2 wood off a hole, is my punishment just hitting a longer club in? That's fine. Or am I getting a worse angle for hitting driver to the other side of the fairway, which makes a pin harder to get at? also fine. I think that's the question process you need to go through a little more. Shot values, if I'd have had the chance to use slopes or tiers on greens a little bit more, or consider really, let's be more precise with how we're approaching greens, I think that would have worked better for me. Technical execution, the major two things that come for me are green shapes. They were, and sizes, they were really varying in size from giant to small, and they didn't really bear in mind what the approach shot that was coming into those greens was. If it's a long approach, give us a larger green with softer slopes. If we're hitting a gap wedge in or a pitch, let's really funk up the green and make it a really tiny target. I think that's the balance we need to find a little bit more. Technical execution, the other thing would have been the bunkers and wrapping those in fairway spline first. You have to do 2 separate splines. There's some stuff on the forums. If you search centerline bunkers or fairway bunkers and rough, you should find an answer, but that tiny little layer of rough looks really awkward, unfortunately. Aesthetics and environment, nailed. No further comments. That's comfortable, full marks on that section. Routing, flow, cohesion, variety of holes. I felt it was cohesive. I'll be honest, I didn't think all that many of the holes stood out. I remember, and this is always tough with courses where you're building an environment, and I would say the same about some of the best courses in the game that create an environment and just immerse you in it, rather than every hole being like, oh, I remember that one, I remember that one, I remember that one, I remember that one. Where I think this fell down was not the environment. Where it fell down is that I don't really remember that many of the shots because they haven't made me think as much or put me under pressure, that sort of thing. And it kind of comes back to the playability. That's the main thing. In terms of routing, the main thing I would talk about is your length of your distance of holes. So if we're looking at those 2 long par 5s, 3 long par 5s, potentially 3 shot par 5s, that's too many, I would say. I'm fine with the one at 5, 8, 9 being amongst a 6, 7, 3, but then this one has to be shorter. If we also look at your par 4 distances, I think you'll start spotting the issue we've got 4, 7, 9, 4, 6, 7, 5, 1, 5, 4, 17, so we've got one shorter one that's potentially a wedge in, but other than that they're pretty beefy. Particularly wind into, I'd be wanting to see something more in the 420 yard range, or let's say, I don't know, let's have a sub 400 yard hole. You'll get way more interesting shots with that when you're trying to take driver out of people's bags, or if they hit driver they're playing a pitch in, those sorts of things. We then go to the back nine. We've got one sub 400 and I remember that one, that was nice. I had a nice little pitch in. 516, 474, 468, 468. They're all relatively long. The par 3s, again, I'd have liked a shorter par 3 somewhere. Something in the 140-ish range would have been nice. But they are relatively evenly spaced. These two, very similar. 2 long ones. I think you can vary it. If you're trying to go one par 3 at around 140, 160, 180, 200, and maybe a 220 if you're having 5, that works quite nicely. But let's work really hard to make those varied. So I think something as simple as hole distances would help. And as a frame of reference, 3866 is massive. I think Conservatory West in the major contest, which was purely really challenging via distance and tucking pin positions, that's 4,000 yards. This is not far off that, and we're looking at a CC course. I think it's just a little too long, really. So yeah, overall things to consider, I guess. I really like the atmosphere. I think you are so close, but let's look more at the whole design side of things. Let's look more at why you're taking decisions the way you are, things like that. I hope that all of that helps. I did really enjoy it, and yeah, good luck in the contest.